Welcome back to another deep dive. We're really thrilled to have you with us today because we have this massive stack of pitch reports to get through.
Yeah, pitch reports and tactical analyses, press conference transcripts too.
Right, exactly. And all of this intel is pointing directly at one single, well, just a monumental event.
The T20 World Cup Super 8 clash.
Yeah. The India and West Indies match this Sunday, March 1st.
Under the lights at Eden Gardens in Kolkata. It's really the undisputed focal point of the cricket world this weekend.
Oh, absolutely.
And honestly, the sheer volume of data and the strategic maneuvering we've been reading through perfectly reflects the tension here. I mean, the stakes could not be higher.
They really couldn't.
Yeah.
Which brings us to our mission for today's deep dive. We are here to unpack why this isn't just another highly anticipated cricket match.
Right.
In reality, this is a high-stakes virtual quarterfinal.
Yeah.
But it is layered with some very heavy historical ghosts.
And incredibly specific pitch quirks at Eden.
Yeah, and a frankly terrifying mathematical trap hanging right over the home team's head.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if you've been following the tactical build-up to this Sunday evening match, the psychological warfare alone is absolutely fascinating.
It really is. And to really get a read on the psychological state of both locker rooms, you have to look at the unforgiving context of Group 1 right now.
Yeah. Group 1 is brutal.
It is. South Africa has already punched their ticket to the semifinals. They remained unbeaten, and that 9-wicket thrashing they handed the West Indies just locked up the top spot for them.
Which means, well, it leaves exactly one seat left on the bus to Wankhede Stadium.
Right, for the semifinal against England. India and the West Indies are sitting on 2 points each.
Just a straight shootout.
Exactly.
Okay.
On paper, it's a straightforward shootout. Win and you're in. Lose and your tournament is over.
It sounds so simple when you say win and you're in. But if you are an Indian fan looking at the math right now, you have to be pulling your hair out.
Oh, yeah, the net run rate. The net run rate scenario India finds themselves in is genuinely absurd. Think about this. India just came off a massive 72-run win over Zimbabwe in Chennai.
A huge win.
They put up 256 for 4. That is the highest total of the entire tournament so far.
Unbelievable batting.
Right. You watch your team bat, you assume you're cruising, but India's NRR is still underwater at minus 0.100.
Which is a direct consequence of that earlier Super 8 disaster against South Africa. I mean, you can't get skittled out for 111 while chasing 187 and not expect it to mathematically haunt you.
Then anchor.
Yeah, that 76-run loss anchored their NRR so deeply that even a record-breaking performance against Zimbabwe couldn't drag it back into the positive.
And then you look at the West Indies.
Exactly. Meanwhile, the West Indies are sitting on a very comfortable, highly insulated plus 1.791 NRR.
Just a massive cushion.
Purely because they completely dismantled Zimbabwe by 101 runs earlier in the stage.
So the West Indies have this massive statistical cushion. And when you look at how that actually impacts the tournament, it's terrifying for India.
Because of the weather variable.
Right. We all know weather is the silent third competitor in any World Cup. Yeah. If this match at Eden Gardens gets washed out or ends in a racket, no result, both teams get 1 point.
Right. They both finished the Super 8s tied on 3 points.
But the West Indies pack their bags for Wankhede based on that superior NRR.
And India's World Cup campaign ends without a single ball being bowled in the decisive match.
Just brutal.
What's fascinating here is how that mathematical reality forces a tactical straitjacket onto the Indian dressing room.
How so?
Well, thankfully for the fans, the forecast in Kolkata is pristine. The reports are showing a sunny 34 degrees Celsius.
Oh, nice.
Cooling down to a very comfortable 25 to 26 degrees by the 7 p.m. start time, and 0 chance of rain. So the elements shouldn't interfere.
That's a huge relief.
It is, but even with clear skies, that NRR trap dictates India's entire approach. They have to play aggressive, high-risk cricket from ball 1. They have absolutely 0 margin for error.
So no feeling out the pitch?
None. They can't afford a slow power play to assess the conditions, and they certainly can't play for a tie. The negative NRR means only an outright victory on the grass keeps them alive.
Which means we really need to talk about that grass. Let's decode this Eden Gardens pitch, because I was reading through the inside reports from the curator, Sujan Mukherjee.
Oh yeah, the pitch reports are really revealing.
It sounds like an absolute belter.
Yeah.
Cricket Association of Bengal President Sourav Ganguly was actually out there inspecting the 22 yards on Friday evening.
Checking the firmness, I bet.
Exactly. He was checking the firmness from both ends, and word is he walked away very happy. Mukherjee confirmed This is the exact same strip that produced the first 200-plus score at the tournament.
When Scotland hit 207 for 4 against Italy.
Yes. The curator literally called it a typical Eden wicket full of runs.
It is full of runs, but any seasoned observer knows a typical Eden wicket is never just a flat road. There is a duality to this specific strip that both captains will be obsessing over.
The duality.
Yeah. Yes, Scotland scored heavily on it, but let's not forget how that match played out. There is significant dryness to this surface.
Ah, the spinners.
Exactly. Scotland's off-spinner Michael Leese took 4 for 17 on this exact ground. That underlying dryness means the spinners are going to have a massive say in the middle overs. It's going to grip.
It's going to grip, but it's not a slow, sluggish turner either. The bounce is still there.
Precisely. And that's the second half of that duality.
Okay.
Historically, and certainly in this tournament, this pitch has offered excellent carry. You saw how a bowler like Jofra Archer utilized it during England's matches here.
Oh, yeah, this is lethal.
He hit the deck hard and let the pace of the pitch do the work. For India, that brings their pace trio directly into the contest.
Jasprit Bumrah.
Bumrah, Arshdeep Singh, and Hardik Pandya. They are going to relish that firmness Ganguly was checking. There will likely be a bit of grass left to bind the surface, which means early seam movement is a very real threat for the top orders.
And then, of course, the sun goes down, and we have to factor in the Kolkata dew.
A massive factor.
Mukherjee specifically warned that there would be considerable dew setting in during the evening. Now, we all know what dew does to a cricket ball. But tactically, for a virtual quarterfinal, how heavily does that dictate the toss?
It completely dictates it. When that heavy dew settles gripping, the ball becomes a nightmare.
Especially for the spinners.
Particularly for the wrist spinners who rely on heavy revolutions. Furthermore, the ball starts skidding onto the bat, neutralizing the pace variations. It heavily favors the team chasing.
So winning the toss and fielding is the only move.
Winning the toss and electing to field isn't just an option here, it's practically a tactical mandate. If you bat first, you are constantly doing the math in your head.
Right.
Trying to calculate exactly how many extra runs you need to compensate for the handicap your bowlers will face in the second innings.
Which sets the stage so perfectly for the psychological warfare we are seeing off the pitch. Because if we are talking about chasing a massive total at Eden Gardens under the lights, we have to talk about the West Indies' history at this venue.
It's a heavy history.
The media has practically dubbed Eden Gardens the West Indies' home away from home. They've already played 2 group stage matches here this tournament and comfortably handled both Scotland and Italy.
But the real weight is the ghost of 2016.
Yes. This is the exact site of their legendary T20 World Cup final victory.
You really cannot overstate the emotional resonance of that 2016 final in the stadium. That was the Carlos Brathwaite Remember the Name match.
4 consecutive sixes in the final over.
To snatch the World Cup away from England, that kind of profound victory embeds itself in a team's DNA. When the current West Indies squad walks out onto that outfield, they aren't walking into a hostile foreign cauldron.
They feel at home.
They are walking onto hallowed ground where their predecessors achieved ultimate glory. It provides a massive baseline of comfort.
And West Indies coach Darren Sammy is exploiting that history beautifully.
Yeah.
Sammy, of course, was the captain who lifted that trophy in 2016.
He knows exactly what he's doing.
I was looking through the transcripts of his pre-match press conference, and the sheer confidence radiating from him is incredible. There are going to be 80,000 screaming Indian fans packed into Eden Gardens, desperate for a home win.
And Sammy doesn't care.
Sammy is just totally unfazed. He looked right at the press and said, "I have 11 danger players versus India. India also have 11 against us."
Just a great quote.
He is leaning so heavily into their batting depth and just projecting total calm.
If we connect this to the bigger picture, Sammy's press conference is a masterclass in psychological management.
Yeah.
He isn't just puffing out his chest. He is deliberately targeting India's historical anxieties. Sammy knows full well that India has struggled under the crushing weight of expectation in recent knockout matches.
The pressure always gets to him.
Right, by actively reminding everyone of 2016 and by so casually dismissing the threat of the 80,000 fans, he is placing the burden of pressure squarely back onto the home team.
That's brilliant.
He's sending a clear message. We aren't intimidated by the math, we aren't intimidated by the crowd, and we have the firepower to out-hit you. It's a brilliant strategy to unsettle the Indian camp before they even cross the boundary rope.
He is definitely trying to get in their heads.
Yeah.
But let's look at the actual form on the field, because here's where it gets really interesting.
Okay.
Sammy can talk about his 11 danger players,
Mm,
but India's batting lineup is coming out of Chennai looking absolutely lethal.
they were terrifying against Zimbabwe.
That resurgence was comprehensive. Every single batter in the top six finished with a strike rate over 150. But for me, the standout narrative is Abhishek Sharma.
His mental resilience to bounce back the way he did is a massive positive for India.
Unbelievable. He walked into that Zimbabwe game carrying the weight of 3 consecutive ducks in the tournament. The media pressure, the fan pressure, it must have been suffocating.
Any normal player would crumble.
And instead of playing tentatively, he goes out and smashes 55 runs off just 30 balls. 4 boundaries, 4 sixes. He just completely imposed his will.
An incredible turnaround.
And then you follow that up with Sanju Samson stepping back into the opener's role and hitting a quick-fire 24 off 15 balls to set the tempo.
It was a very clinical top-order display, but the most crucial element of that 256 run total was what happened at the death.
Hardik Pandya.
Exactly. Hardik's explosive 50-knot off just 23 balls is exactly the kind of finishing kick India has been desperately searching for.
I loved his post-match quote about that innings, too. He said, "I realized I was trying to hit the ball too hard. I could time the ball as well."
That's a scary realization for the opposition.
That kind of clarity from your premier all-rounder is huge. Finding that rhythm, realizing you don't have to muscle everything, especially on a pitch like Eden that rewards good timing and offers carry, that makes it incredibly dangerous in the final 5 overs.
It does. India's batting absolutely found its highest gear in Chennai. But, and this is but we cannot ignore the glaring vulnerabilities they showed with the ball.
Yeah, the bowling was a different story.
Despite setting a tournament high score, the Indian bowling attack looked remarkably fragile in phases. And that is exactly what Sammy's 11 danger players will be targeting.
Yeah, I'm looking at Shivam Dube's numbers against Zimbabwe, and if you are an Indian fan, you have to be worried.
Very worried.
Coach Gautam Gambhir clearly prefers playing the all-rounders who extend the batting lineup, but Dube was heavily exposed. He leaked 46 runs in just 2 overs.
It was tough to watch.
In one single 10-ball over, he bowled 4 wides and 2 no-balls. Against a lineup featuring Rovman Powell and Shimron Hetmeyer, on a fast Eden track with short boundaries rolling out military medium pace without any rhythm, feels like a recipe for disaster.
It is a massive liability. When a bowler loses his radar like that, 4 wides and 2 no balls, it speaks to a fundamental lack of confidence in his lengths.
And he wasn't the only one struggling.
No. The mystery spin department is in an absolute crisis right now with Varun Chakravarthi.
Chakravarthi has looked completely lost in the last 2 games. Against South Africa, he was consistently bowling way too short. You had guys like David Miller and Dewald Brevis just premeditating their attacks, sitting back and taking him for 47 runs in his 4 overs.
He was a sitting duck.
So what does he do against Zimbabwe? He overcorrects. He tries to pitch it up, goes too full, and seasoned players like Sikandar Raza punish him for 35 runs.
He's caught in 2 minds.
He's experimenting, he's searching for a length, and he's doing it in the middle of the Super 8s.
And this creates a brutal selection headache for the Indian management. Do you back Chakravarthi? Because Eden Gardens is his IPL home ground with the Kolkata Knight Riders.
Boy, he knows the pitch.
He knows this pitch better than anyone. Or, considering the stakes, do you drop him and bring in the left-arm wrist spin of Kuldeep Yadav to provide more control and attacking threat?
That decision might decide the game because it brings us right to the tactical collision course of this match. You have India's incredibly vulnerable spin attack going head-to-head with the raw, brutal power of the West Indies middle order.
A terrifying prospect for India.
Powell and Hetmeyer thrive on clearing those boundaries. The West Indies' entire blueprint this tournament has been to lay a steady foundation and then unleash absolute carnage in the final 10 overs. If India's 5th and 6th bowling options are leaking runs, that's game over.
And we have to look at the exact inverse of that matchup, too. You have India's confident, aggressive batting lineup going up against a very clever, highly versatile West Indies spin attack.
They're so tricky.
They aren't just relying on pace. They have the off-spin of Roston Chase, the left-arm orthodox of Akil Hussain, and then the real wild card, Gudakesh Modi.
Modi's Chinaman bowling is so vital on a dry Eden pitch.
It is the ultimate weapon against a right-hand heavy batting order. As a left-arm wrist spinner, Modi has that rare ability to turn the ball sharply in both directions.
Which is so hard to read.
Extremely. He can bowl the traditional delivery that spins away from the left-hander and bites into the right-hander, but his variations allow him to rip it back the other way.
Wow.
If he finds his length early and the pitch offers that dryness Michael least exploited, Modi is going to ask some very difficult questions of Abhishek Sharma and Sanju Samson in those middle overs.
So what does this all mean? We've looked at the terrifying NRR math.
Hmm.
We've broken down the duality of the Eden pitch. We've analyzed Darren Sammy's mind games, and we've laid out the critical matchups between bat and ball.
It's a lot to process.
When you step back and look at the whole picture, it is abundantly clear that this isn't just about who hits the ball cleaner or bowls the better Yorker. It is the ultimate test of mental fortitude.
100%.
Can this Indian squad block out the noise, ignore the negative NRR, exercise the ghosts of 2016, and execute under the immense pressure of a virtual knockout against a team that feels perfectly at home?
It's the kind of high-stakes tactical chess match that makes T20 World Cup cricket so utterly compelling.
It really is.
But before we wrap up today's analysis, this raises an important question, one that I think you should keep in mind as you watch the game unfold.
Let's hear.
Consider the entire architecture of the net run rate system we discussed. We are looking at a scenario where a team could break records, score 256 runs, thoroughly outplay their opponent on a field, and yet have their entire World Cup dream extinguished by a sudden rainstorm, triggering a mathematical tiebreaker from a singular bad loss a week prior. If a calculator can mathematically override a dominant on-field performance, does this tournament format fundamentally fail the spirit of the sport?
That is a brilliant and honestly brutal question to leave hanging in the air. A huge thank you to you for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for listening.
The tactical lines are drawn, the stakes are as high as they get, and the stage is perfectly set for an absolute classic at Eden Gardens. Enjoy the clash between India and the West Indies, and we will catch you next time as we continue to unpack the fascinating stories behind the scores.